Welcome. Sandoval Communications presents video streaming of the October 2020 board meeting of Sandoval's HOA. The live stream is simulcast on Sandoval's official communications Facebook page, Sandoval Cape Coral. Alternate viewing of this meeting is also available for your convenience 24/7 on our YouTube channel, Sandoval Video Box, and on Sandoval's website, www.livesandoval.com. Consider subscribing to support Sandoval Video Box on YouTube by clicking both the subscribe button and bell to be notified of future meetings and presentations by Sandoval Communications. The meeting will begin shortly. Sandoval Communications thanks you for your support and participation by watching this meeting.
Good evening. The October 22nd, 2020 Board of Directors meeting is now called to order at, 6:05. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So tonight we have a full house. All 7 board members are present, so that's good to see. We'll take a quick roll call. Vice President Ron Spooner? Present. Treasurer Bill Tubb?
Present.
Director Scott D. Philippus?
Present.
Director Melanie Palmer?
Present.
Director L. Roper?
Present.
And Director Don Wells?
Present.
Great, super. So quorum is established. And now I'll ask the General Manager, Casey Pinella, to confirm proof of notice. All right, and then secondly, we have some guests with us from Pope Management. I'll let you do the honors.
Yes, we have Debbie Hartman, VP at Pope Management, and then we also have Ryan Henderson, who's the VP of Operations.
So welcome. All right, and Casey, were there any resident comments on tonight's agenda topics?
No.
Okay, very good. All right, next on the agenda is the approval of the past meeting minutes. Does the board have any edits or corrections to the past meeting minutes?
None.
There was a date error that we caught regarding the, it was on the top of the very last page. It referenced March 3rd regarding the annual, annual meeting, which is actually Thursday, March 4th.
You know, the copies you have the correction.
Oh, they do. Okay, all right. Anybody have any edits or comments?
None.
All right, so is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
All right, Bill. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Scott, thank you. All in favor of approving the minutes as presented, say aye.
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 All right, great. The motion's approved as distributed. Thank you. All right. So, good evening to everyone. It's hard to believe we're in the final quarter of the year. We've all missed so much of 2020. As our community enters month 8 of the pandemic time, I'm hoping 2021 brings positive change and good health to everyone. This month has been terribly busy for the board, with focus on the upcoming construction project, preparing the 2021 budget, and interviewing property management companies as we continue along with our request for proposal process. We will be discussing each of these matters later this evening. Our General Manager, Casey Pinella, has hit the ground running, working with Pope, our Treasurer, and the Finance Committee, drafting the 2021 budget. The Treasurer will address the 2021 budget efforts a little later in the agenda. On Wednesday of last week, October 14th, the RFP Ad Hoc Committee facilitated the first of 2 full-service property management workshops for the board, with representatives from the Castle Group, who were first up at 1 o'clock, followed by representatives from Associate Gulf Coast at 2:30 p.m. And again, the ad hoc committee is taking a look at what capabilities are out there, what competition and cost efforts are out there compared to our current state of play with Pope. The hour-long format consisted of a 15-minute presentation to the board addressing services and structure and a 45-minute interview session by the board. On Thursday, October 15th, the second workshop was conducted with representatives from Precedent Hospitality at 10 o'clock, followed by representatives from First Service Residential at 11:30. And the same format was used for the second workshop as well. These workshops were live streamed for residents, and if you're interested, they can easily be found on the Sandoval Cape Coral Facebook page or the Sandoval video box on YouTube. Melanie will be providing highlights from the workshop later in the agenda. The Lifestyle Director has confirmed the Cape Coral Police Department security detail for the night of Halloween, recognizing that Halloween falls this year on a Saturday, and our kids will be anxious to be outside with family and friends. The CDC social distancing guidelines I discussed at the last board meeting, including how to participate safely in upcoming Halloween holiday activities, was emailed to residents by the Communications Committee. These CDC guidelines are also being shared with those residents that are coming in now and purchasing wristbands for their guests. As a reminder, all vehicle guest lanes will be closed at 4 p.m. on Halloween night. Guests with wristbands are required to enter on foot through the Veterans Gate starting at 4 p.m. So I ask all residents to plan accordingly during peak Halloween hours and to please use the Trafalgar or Pine Island gates. Lastly, a reminder to all that the November monthly board meeting will be held on Thursday, December 3rd at 6 p.m., noting that the last Thursday in November is Thanksgiving Day, thus the board's decision to push the monthly meeting 1 week. So I'll end my report here because we have a very ambitious schedule tonight, and ask our treasurer to please provide his report. Thank you.
Okay, the September 30, 2020 financial highlights are as follows. September 30, 2020 financials have been posted to our homeowners website for you to review. We received these financials on October the 19th, and they've been distributed to the board and to the Finance Committee. B, the Finance Committee met on Tuesday, October 20, and reviewed the September financials and also reviewed the tentative 2021 budget. You'll hear more about that in the budget discussion. C, once again, we have experienced the reason Sandoval needs to establish a formal purchase order system. On October 21, yesterday, Sandoval had a vendor approach our general manager, present her with 21 past due invoices totaling over $29,000, dating back as far as January 2020, and request she help him collect these outstanding balances. This happened when Sean Wilson left our management company, and Jerry Evans assured us he had safeguards in place to prevent this from happening again. Well, that's happened again. With a formal purchase order system, our association will know what expenditures have been authorized and which one of those obligations have been accounted for. Fortunately, these particular expenditures were either within the scope of our operating budget or reserve items which the board had approved. But the surprise caught by the vendor's negligence in not sending monthly statements could have been different. As we consider the management contract renewal, I ask that the board to require management going forward to require that we issue and monitor purchase orders. D, a review of the HOA accounts receivable delinquency account reveals that receivables over 90 days old are down by about 10%, and the 9 major accounts making up the majority of this amount, of those 9, 1 is in bankruptcy, 6 have been turned over to our attorney for collection, and 2 have set up payment plans to bring them current. So we're actually in better shape now than we were last month on the delinquencies. And the September 30 balances in the reserve fund and the telecommunications surplus fund can be found on the financial statements on our website. That's all.
Very good. Thank you. And next, the general manager's report, please.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. I wanted to start off by thanking the committees who have been working with management and the board of directors. The landscape committee worked to oversee the mulch installation seamlessly. The covenants committee has held 2 back-to-back meetings with great teamwork. The lake committee held a meeting with Solitude Lake Management to streamline process, as well as we've had Crow recently request releasing bird and turtle due to just the quality that Sandoval has here at your community. And the Communications Committee is working hard on a newsletter and would like to request you email the GM if you have interest to help write. If you've observed people doing good in the community, please send me an email regarding that, and I'll forward it on to the committee. The ARC committee has been working to process applications along with making edits to the architectural guidelines with great camaraderie. The social committee has been hard at work to cover all the many details for Halloween. The amenities committee has obtained proposals for many different items, including the palapas, tiki huts there at the bocce court. The finance committee continues to oversee and look over the financials, including budget preparations that have been ongoing. Stormwater committee has been tromping through, keeping an eye out for all the drainage issues out there, and has been working with Down to Earth to get the drains cleared off. We want to remind everyone that we're selling wristbands, guest wristbands, at the clubhouse by appointment. The hours of availability are Tuesday and Thursday, 12 p.m. to 8 p.m., and Saturday, 9 to 12 p.m. Also a reminder that daylight savings time is ending on November the 1st, 2 a.m., and we'll be going into winter pool hours in November that are consistent with last year's pool hours. That will be Monday through Sunday, 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Management is also working to obtain pressure washing bids.
That's it?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I thought you were on another page. Thank you. All right, and now we will have Don Wells address the clubhouse expansion project. Thank you.
This month, we have officially signed the contract for the clubhouse. That was done over the weekend. One of the requirements in that contract was to have a builder's risk insurance policy. And we got one bid from Stevens Construction.
Your microphone.
And two from Casey with our insurance company. And we have selected one of those. We were ready to institute the policy. And I sent a text message to Stevens Construction and asked how the permits were coming. And I got bad news. He says the city... for the renovation, are still reviewing this particular building, and it will not be out until November the 12th, and that they do not have the permit for the new building either. So we put a hold on the builder's risk because it's a 9-month policy, and we don't want to get a policy that takes 9 months to get the thing approved before we go. But we're ready to pull the trigger, and we know who we're going to pick as soon as we get some permits. A couple of other things, storage containers. We've figured out what sizes and where we're going to locate those, and we're thinking at Calypso Park because they need a straight area where they can offload these. Everything here is in circles, and there's no place for a 40-foot container to be slid off a truck. We also have been in checking with Envira. In our current site plan, we'll need a way through the pool area to the bocce, basketball, and playground, and it's easy to get there, but without a card reader, it's impossible to get back, and we're going to be using card readers on the new building, and if we could get one installed at that gate, then we could use it as a temporary card reader that we could remove, or we'll have a spare, depending on what the cost and things are. And that is where we stand regarding the clubhouse.
Great, thank you. Next we have Taylor Morrison litigation.
We continue to meet and work up the claims. We have made significant progress and expect a significant announcement in the very near future, likely about 2 weeks. We also continue to evaluate the Phase 3 transition. And that's the update for now. Thank you.
Capital improvement projects. Al Roper, please.
I don't have much to report because we don't have any current projects. I can say, however, that the last 2 projects, the 2 new parking lots, the permits were signed off on, and so we are completely finished with those projects. So then, as far as I'm concerned, the ad hoc capital improvement committee can be put to bed.
Thank you. And thank you to the ad hoc committee for their diligence in getting the jobs done. So we'll remove that from the schedule.
I'd like to add to Al. I have printed out the second approval of the permit for the dog park, and I have that, which I'll bring into the office.
All right. So again, thank you to Al Roper and the ad hoc committee, the capital improvement projects, for the total completion now. We'll remove it from the agenda in the future. Thank you. All right, next on the agenda, we have the management company RFP update, and I'm going to turn to Melanie Palmer for her presentation.
Sure. So we, as Kathy had stated earlier, we had 4 companies come in and do presentations for us, and as a committee, we've grouped back and provided feedback to one another. But I guess I'd just like to hear from the board what your impressions were, or if you have any information to share, feedback around the presentations that were made. Anybody have anything they want to share? Okay. So when we went back to the committee, we do not have a consensus at this point. We have several members have come back with what their recommendations would be. Basically asked them what their first and second choices would be. And we had 3 come back with their first choice being First Service and their second choice being First Service. 2 come back with Associa being their first choice, 3 with Associa being their second choice, and Castle with Associa being Castle with it being their first choice, and 1 for Castle being their second choice. So because of this, we really don't have a solid recommendations to say this is the one company that the committee recommends moving forward. What we would like to be able to do is we recommend at least narrowing it down to potentially 2 companies based off the feedback from the committee. If we were to take their recommendation, it would be First Service, and then between the board, if you wanted to decide if we wanted to potentially speak with Associa or Castle to come back, if we're trying to get it down to 2.
So the plan is that we know that there's technology that they have that we currently don't have that capability here for greater efficiencies and streamlining and eliminating the paper process for some of the filing of applications. So we would want to get a better definition of some of these applications, Drawbridge, this Town Square, and the third one was
Connect.
Connect. So maybe a demonstration, and that'll help the committee further refine. And at the same time, we can also look at some of their costing fees, and that would help us narrow it down. The committee was in agreement that we're going to drop precedent from consideration at this time, which was the 4th company that presented last week, right?
Right. Yeah. They didn't necessarily have the technology infrastructure that we were looking for. They're the only one of the 4 that doesn't really have their own app to be able to provide that service. And we felt that they were just a little bit too much focused on the accounting and not necessarily the full property management that we're looking for.
The financial aspects versus some of the operational. We talked to them about maintenance, preventative maintenance, the deed compliance program. As far as the presentations, the committee, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Before you go on, maybe you should ask if any of the board members object to you dropping precedent.
Oh, okay.
I don't, but you know.
I mean, is there anybody that's, Scott, myself, and Kathy are on the committee, so Ron, do you or Don, Al?
No.
I have no objection.
Okay.
Okay, so no objection. Okay, good. Sorry. So
I have one comment I'd like to make.
Yes, sir.
One of the things that I think is imperative is the deed restriction program, and I know that's Ron's
yes.
number 1. And I think that, you know, in some of the presentations, one specifically, it was very well organized and very well done. I mean, we've been trying for the last 3 years to get that off the ground, and it's been a non-starter. It's a total disaster. And, you know, I saw in some of these presentations, one specifically, you know, that it was, you know, very well organized, and by the time you're back in the office, you know, everything's ready to go and things can be printed out. And I wondered if Ron had any opinions on what he heard.
Well, I wasn't surprised that a number of the companies mentioned that one of the largest, most glaring issues we have in this community is consistency with deed restriction program.
Yes.
I thought multiple companies, without mentioning names, did offer some really significant technology in order to communicate with the residents and get them immediately notified of any issue so it can be rectified quickly. But I do concur with Don that there was some much needed technology that was brought to our attention, and I'm optimistic that it will help us significantly.
Indeed. And from a resident standpoint, there'd be an ease with the apps, and also the push of information. For example, the other morning there was an issue with the gate, and
Right.
Mara was on the phone with the general manager saying that the incoming resident gate in Veterans was out of commission. So in speaking with the general manager, Casey suggested opening the guest lane so that parents returning, dropping kids off at school and landscapers and people coming in, we wouldn't back it all up. But it would have been great if we had the opportunity to push that with a text messaging system, and we heard from the companies that they have that capability. And that's, again, the efficiencies that we're looking for as we move forward, some of the technology advancements and innovation.
Yeah, and I know two specifically said they both have that capability. I guess the question is based on the committee not having a consensus and to be able to come back to the board and say, this is the one that we recommend you move forward with, is the board comfortable with potentially bringing in two more and kind of narrowing this down again?
Did you want to ask the board members which two they would pick?
Yeah, that's basically what I'm trying, yeah.
Would you want to not invite your front runner?
And
Would they
finalize
take
too.
some kind of message from that by not being included?
Why would you want to invite your front runner?
But you're talking about bringing the two.
Well, I thought you were going to find out
Lower
what the
ones.
board thought.
Oh, no. Yeah, no, I think we need to get from the 3 to the 2.
Okay,
So
okay.
I think we need to determine which 2 are the ones to come back.
Okay. I thought you were going to talk to the two to find out which one of those two would be the second.
Oh my gosh, that's too laborsome.
I mean, personally, I feel that we're in a position where I think we know that all three of them really have the improved technology, really, that we're looking for. But I want to make sure that we don't get into a situation that we're making decisions based off a presentation or a sales pitch or something like that, and that what we're being told can actually be substantiated behind.
We want to see demonstrations of
Right.
the technology and get a little better understanding of how it's utilized in the communities. And the ease for the community to, sign in, sign on, and, what that whole campaign is.
I would just add that I'd really look towards the committee to break it down and recommend at least two companies.
Yes.
I feel like you guys have been the forefront of doing all the work, and your evaluation is obviously very important to us. And if there is not agreement amongst the committee, hopefully you can put a little more time into it and come back and give us a recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good idea.
It's the goal.
I think, though, too, is we know in the last, say, 24 hours, there's been some massaging of additional information that has come in.
Yes.
And it did change the numbers very slightly. And to be honest with you, with my work schedule, I wasn't able to go through that. But
Right.
before I came here, I was able to pour through some of those additional documents.
Okay.
And I will go on the record to say that, and I'm not flip-flopping, I'm just,
No, that's
after
fine.
evaluating what was there, my second pick has changed. So I don't know how that affects that, but my second pick would change to first service.
Okay, so Yeah. I mean, basically, it's, yeah, there's...
Yeah, so on Friday, you know, we did follow up with one of the companies because they contradicted them, what was presented to us with what they said to us. They threw in an additional cost that wasn't identified. So as we went back to get clarification, we, the ad hoc committee, went back, they came back with I think you saw in my notes, right? A different game plan with their burden rates and whatnot, additional costs. So it did change the picture a little bit, and I think I know I lost a little faith in their their ability, right?
Yeah, and you know that was part of this exercise as well. Is we wanted to see what people put forward. You know, certain things you tend to overlook and you know, give people benefit of the doubt and stuff like that. I don't know how many times you go back and keep changing numbers. That starts to make me a little bit concerned.
Right.
And granted, all of that would be figured out and determined through contract, but it kind of makes you a little uneasy not knowing what else either hasn't been communicated right or has been changed since the last time we talked and all of that. I just get nervous when numbers change often like that.
All right, so so does the board then concur with the ad hoc committee setting up some, maybe like a Zoom call with demonstrations, right? Can we do it over a Zoom call? Or do you think they need to?
They don't need to physically be here.
They can share the screen.
Yeah.
Google Meet or something, yeah.
And then it'll be informational, so I think whoever's available or interested can participate.
I would like to see if they could walk us through the apps and see how they really work. I think that could be a significant improvement.
Yeah, that's what I meant when I said, you know, demonstrate the technology applications. Yeah.
And two of them at least have been very transparent with their app. You know, one of them is a very robust app, and it's the exact same information between the app and the website. It's the same information whether you're looking at it on a PC or on your phone. The other one is it's a support. It's a support to the website. It has most common items that you would go through. You can go in and update. You can do those alerts for various gate issues and stuff like that. But it's not meant to replace a full-scale website that would hold all your historical information. So they are both have very different intentions. I think the decision for us is to determine what level of support do we need from that technology. You know, what do we need for our community? And to not make a decision based off one piece of technology. I mean, the technology should support the process. It doesn't become the process. It needs to be a piece of it that facilitates getting the communication and the information out, but the right information still has to get into it. Bad info in, bad info out. So we just got to make sure that the infrastructure is set up.
Well, to be honest, my estimation, I was down to 2, but the information you sent out to me, my third one kind of crept back into play. And you're right, I don't want a piece of technology to be the determining factor, but they're so close that a piece of technology may be the only difference in them.
It might. Right.
All right. Al, any additional comments? I'll go around the table. No? Scott? Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm going around the table. Okay, sorry, John.
I did share the app with the communications chairman. That's nothing else. And Doug Willett felt that was a very dynamic app, and he felt that it would replace, you know, our website, which is a cost that we would not have to incur.
Right.
So he was very impressed with that. I just make that comment.
And some of the companies include the website, design, maintenance, at no cost in their management fee, which is a benefit, especially tied with the app.
But if you have one and you didn't have multiple things, and you know, you save the labor intensity that this communications committee here, and those people won't be here all the time. I mean, they're doing a bang-up job, but you know, we all come in and come out. So just.
All right, Ron, anything additional?
No.
All right, Melanie?
No, the only thing to the website piece, the only part that I would add to that is that they do include the website with it. So that's a fee that we can eliminate across the board with either option. And yeah, that's it. I'll just leave it at that. We can.
Mr. Tepp?
Nothing else.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Melanie. And thank you to the ad hoc committee. All right, next we have the Risk Management Committee. Bill Tubb.
Nothing to report. The Risk Management Committee hasn't met. I think are they back in town, Ron? Okay. So we should be doing something. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Insurance renews in February, so we need to be getting busy, but there hadn't been a whole lot to do before that.
All right. So as far as the next on the schedule is the update on the coronavirus. The only thing I have is that the Governor DeSantis back in March issued a state of emergency as a result of COVID. And that state of emergencies lapses or is set to expire, if you will, on November 3rd. At this time, it's unknown whether there'll be additional guidance provided. So we'll be monitoring that to see what occurs or what plays out. At this time, the clubhouse remains closed for social activities. And again, thank you to the residents, especially now coming in, appointments and masks required. Again, we're limiting the foot traffic through in an effort to maintain a healthy workplace and a safeguard for both our staff and our residents. So thank you all for that. Anything else on Corona? Okay. All right. Next, we have street paving. Ron.
We are anticipating a second bid to come in any day now and signing of the contract likely by the end of next week. I've stressed that this project needs to be expedited. I personally met with the paving companies to ensure this project is done quickly. The board has acted quickly and decisively to free up the funds for the project, and I do appreciate that. I'll note that the project will cost close to $100,000 and took full evaluation of every single street. And we'll make sure this project is done as quick as possible. And that is the update.
Do you have a comment on the ceiling?
No, I wanted to make sure that we get the paving done. And as soon as we sign that contract, that'll be in motion, and then we can shift the focus. So I think it'd be a good fluid discussion for the next board meeting. But in the meantime, I'm happy to meet with anyone one-on-one to go over it.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda, we have the design review guideline revisions. And some of you may recall at the August 27th board meeting, the board passed a motion to direct the Architectural Review Committee to review and edit and provide clarification in the design review guidelines. There have been instances where different situations have occurred that needed to be corrected or clarified in the document. There were some typos and edits. In other instances, there was no reference to color, such as like screen doors and the framing for the screen doors, the need to add the word white. So with that in mind, the ARC committee conducted the review and made the edits, and the board members were provided with the revision prior to Monday. I think it was Monday, right? Monday? So this effort to clean up the language and the typos and to add language was basically in support of both compliance enforcement and also streamlining the application process. Of note in the revised draft, two points I want to make is that it strengthens the compliance and enforcement aspects in that it clearly offers language now saying that ARC approval must be in place before any work associated with the project is completed. That language wasn't there before, so it gives some teeth to the program, and it's helpful. Secondly, there were instances where a resident was doing work on their home, and they had a couple different projects. They put both projects on the application, and when the ARC conducted their business with the review of the application, one of the projects may have been approved while the other one needed additional information or it was denied. So in tracking purposes, it was difficult to break it out. So now the request included in the revision is that you cannot bundle your application, your projects on the application. If you're doing a driveway and you're doing a pool, you're going to require 2 applications. And that'll just help with the tracking, and they can close it out as it's done or deny it as necessary without impeding efforts with the resident. So I'm curious to hear what other feedback you all have, and then we would look to see if we're in a position to make a motion on the proposed revisions. The floor is open.
First and foremost, just to the committee, again, a bunch of volunteers stepping up to the plate to make our community a better place without complaining, with the existing conditions. So congratulations to them for doing a great job and handing us a 50-plus page document that I read over, and there were some really, really great changes that were made and additions that's just going to take us into a better place for uniformity within our community. But there are some notes that I did take going through that, and I'd just like to go through those if I could. On page 4, number 3, air conditioning equipment, it says DR approval is required for the installation of all exterior air conditioning equipment, blah, blah, blah. I think we probably need to take that language and say existing equipment that may be already in place does not require DR approval, because if it's existing from a new house or a house that's 5-10 years old already, it's going to be screened from with plantings and things. So to take something that was approved already upon installation and asking for a design review on that, I think that's repetitive. So as long as you're replacing existing and it met the existing code at the time, I don't think DR approval should be required on that one. Same page going down to number 5, bird baths, bird houses, not required for the rear yard. Just bring up some incidences that have happened over the years with different committee, with Lakes Committee, is that bird baths, but especially bird feeders to the rear yards of lakefront property have been causing some hardship with water quality, and then again, feeding of wildlife from people. So I would look to that bird houses are not allowed in the rear yards of lakefront properties or within a certain amount of that area, because we did spend over $300,000 for our water quality and aeration, and I know that has been a big issue for water quality. So that was my one comment there. Page 5, when we're looking at decks, and it says you need license, liability insurance, all utilized for the applicant for all work pertaining to any addition of a patio or deck. And we're talking addition here. So if somebody wanted to add a step pad that's maybe 5 square feet to an existing, I think maybe if we added language to a square foot maximum before you needed that, because I don't think you're going to have a contractor come out if you wanted to put a 5-foot step-off pad, which would be required to come out. It's probably too small of a job, so maybe some language dictating square footage there would be appropriate. Sorry for the length here, but might as well get it right the first time. Page 14, number 35, screen doors. And I couldn't find it anywhere in our previous docs, but I know when people want to enclose their front door areas with screening, I know there was an issue where front doors are 8 foot high, but they were putting in 6-foot screen doors. So I thought it was in the docs where that screen door had to be the same height of your front door, which would be 8 feet. So I think that needs to be articulated somewhere in there, that your screen door has to match the height of your front door. Moving on to something that's near and dear to my heart, Realty Signs. There was a post, and that's going to dovetail into this, about...
page number?
16.
Page number?
Excuse me, that would be page 17. Where some open house signs were being removed. Not sure if it was management or code enforcement or somebody was just stealing them, but the city of Cape Coral in their ordinance allows for a few hours before and a few hours after, then they have to be removed. Lee County doesn't want them in their right of way, but they're still allowed in certain areas, and I don't know if that was an issue. But for directional signs for open houses that are there for a couple of hours, I believe that should be allowed, as long as there's something that is consistent with that realtor's theme, if you will, or other yard signs. Moving to page 18, trash containers.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt you?
Yep.
On that page 17, and Casey and I spoke about, maybe you want to address it?
Sure. And I'm not sure if you were speaking throughout the community in the common grounds or just at their home and open house sign.
Common grounds, like leading down to the street. I know that it kind of was, to me, it was vague. Like, okay, you can have one on the house,
right,
but no leaders coming in.
Right. So we researched it to see, and it's pretty typical in the common grounds not to allow signs, just for the control aspect of it. Where do you start and stop when you have multiple different signs? We looked into it, wondering if that was allowed or not. And right now, the way that it is you can have one approved per the specs of the community real estate sign in the yard and a tag sign that kind of says what time the open house would be. Right now, it just says, no, you cannot put them anywhere in the common area. That's the only places in your yard with that additional tag sign.
Okay, and that's kind of how I thought it read. And I would also, as a realtor, be looking for some relief on that, as to have an hour before and an hour after. I think that is, again, following with Lee County and in the city of Cape Coral. But trash containers, getting back to that on page 18. The new language, the installation of landscape plant requires the plants to be at the very least as tall as the trash containers upon installation. I think twofold, coming from the landscape committee and from a landscape industry, to find a plant, a nursery stock that's going to be 48 inches tall right off the bat. It won't be a 3-gallon plant. It won't be a 5-gallon plant. So your typical ones that we're using as coverage for those, it's going to be hard to find. And so, I would look for some sort of minimum of 3-gallon, like we're doing along the fences and along lanais, to be let grow up to the height of that. I think that's more realistic. I don't think you're going to find a plant that's probably going to meet our approved plant list that's going to be 48 inches tall from the beginning.
The only other thing with that is if we can try to work with the landscapers as well, because when we have plants that are that tall, they come and chop them down, and then you see the trash barrels.
They put them back,
yeah. Page 19, landscaping. Just a suggestion here, because I found throughout the years when design review or making decisions regarding landscaping, it may be contradictory to some of the landscape committee's thoughts, if you will. So I would just ask if it would be the prudent thing to do, to maybe any time a landscape decision is made or a DR is issued, that a representative from landscape be conferred, or maybe a representative from the landscape committee sit on that DR committee. Page 20, lake lots are required to include one shade tree at the rear of the property. You could walk this community and find, I'm not going to give you a percentage, but I bet you it's over 50% that don't have a shade tree to the rear of their lot. And I know there's a question as to what a shade tree is, but if you look up the City of Cape Coral's ordinance, and if you look up what Bonita Bay did originally, a shade tree is not a palm tree and will never be a palm tree. A shade tree is listed in the county and the state as either an oak, a shady lady, and they have a whole list of. So I think we need to get on the equal field of what is a shade tree and what isn't a shade tree. Again, 51 pages, but I believe... no, I'm sorry. I'm going to hold you up a little bit longer. Page 44, under Sandoval approved plant list. It says other species may be approved on a case-by-case basis at the discretion of the DR. And I think we're all, as a board, looking for consistency here. So when you let any board at their discretion, that gives the opportunity for one person to get their way and another person to be denied. So I think unless you're going to be very black and white in what is allowed and what isn't, I don't think any board should have a discretion to change things from house to house. I mentioned the city of Cape Coral does not recognize palms as that. And page 46, I think we also need to, vegetations that are not permitted, I think we also need to add all Class 1 invasives. So your Class 1 invasives are delineated by the state of Florida. University of Florida's website has them all on there. And if you go through our community, you'll see a ton of Class 1 invasives planted. So I think we need to include them on the not approved list. And thank you very much. That is all I have.
Okay.
I've got a comment on one of yours where you're talking about the 48-inch plants for the shade screening.
Trash.
We passed not an ordinance, but we passed a policy that said in phase 3 where there was none and people were putting up the little white fences, okay, you got to put up landscaping. You can put in smaller plants and you can have a year or two for them to grow up. They have not done that. I think maybe that's where the ARC's coming from, is when you give them that option, they choose not to do it. So that's why they're saying you got to put the big ones in so it'll be big. If we enforce it somehow, I'd support it. But
and I would totally agree with you with that one. It comes down to enforcement. I think it's been said a million times here. We have been so deficient in our enforcement, and if again, it's a deed-restricted community. These are the rules.
Right.
We're going to give you a little latitude to let that 3-gallon grow up, and if you choose not to, if you want to cut it down, when there's going to be repercussions. Whatever that fine might be, it's going to be levied. So I think there might be a balance we could strike with that. But again, yes, absolutely, there has to be an enforcement end of that if you're going to give someone that latitude to let it grow.
Mm-hmm. All right. Al, do you have any additional comments?
I was looking for it, but I think I saw where removing or replacing trees requires approval.
What page? I'm sorry.
This was on page 22.
Yes.
Number 2.
I'll repeat it again. On page 22, removing or replaces trees requires approval. I was just wondering why that was changed. Previously, if you replaced in kind, you could just go ahead and do it. And I don't understand why this has changed the way it is.
Actually, that was the original language. Removing or replacing trees require DR approval. That was the original language.
Well, application fee shall be waived for replacing with the same material.
That's been taken out.
And that's the check. That's the check to make sure that the tree is being removed and replaced.
And then my I guess, in addition to that, does it matter what size of a tree? In other words, if I go to Home Depot and I get a hibiscus tree that's 1.5 inches in diameter and it doesn't make it 3 weeks, then technically I cannot remove that until I get permission to remove it. And then I have to pay $25 for that application to remove that tree. And is this the same for any plant I have? If I have an $8 croton plant that dies in my front yard, it's outside of my house, it's outside of the 4 corners of my house, and I have to pay $25 to remove that dead croton and get permission to replace it?
That seems a bit extreme.
I do believe there's a waiver provision in here. I just need to locate it for the $25 for trees and minor landscaping. I'll see if I can find that. But to Al's point, if you don't mind, I could just add, it also says landscape reworking. So it's difficult to define everything that you're doing, but it would be helpful for maybe some clarity as to what would constitute a requirement to go through DR and what would not. Obviously, planting flowers, in my mind, would not require you to go through DR, but technically that's...
Provided they're on the approved list.
Yes. And I don't know if there is some sort of objective standards we can put in there, but anything we can help our residents in terms of clarity, because I think most people want to comply and follow the rules. We just have to make sure the rules are clear enough to allow residents to do that.
All right, Don, I'm sorry, did you have additional comments?
I'll comment on this, and I have one.
Okay.
I think that you need to make rules. You were talking about micro issues and micro issues. The macro issues are the trees and things like this. I think we are so off the chart on compliance that I think we need to really. I think we really need to start with the macro issues and get those under control. And then if you want to start talking about crotons and things like that, then, down the line, 5 years from now or whatever, we can discuss those. But, for someone to have to come to get permission to replace their croton and things like that, I think at this point, you don't have enough staff or architectural review volunteers to consider all those issues. But going back to page 4, bird baths, bird feeders, I think that there's something that's missing in this, and we've had that issue when Jim Niehaus was here on Ashbury, and we've had the same issue on the Stony Hill Brightside Lake, is that there are bird feeders that are feeding the ducks and other wildlife that are coming in from the lake, and then you have so many of them that you start polluting the water, and then the quality of the lake has gone down, because Jim said that the Ashbury Lake was the worst lake in Sandoval. And it was because of the amount of wildlife that was in that lake and had been fed. Well, then we had the same issue on the Stony Hill Brightside Lake, and it was due to a bird feeder that was being utilized. And so I think that, to say that there's a bird feeder in the backyard, you're giving them permission to feed those wildlife. I mean, you've got to stipulate that it can't be feeding ducks and all those things that are flying in. And if that's not in this reads that you can put a bird feeder back there. So I think it needs to be qualified.
Is that something that's being added, or is that was original, wasn't it? That's not indicated that it was a change.
Well, it's original language,
So
but it's something we need to address.
Okay.
And I think to Don's point, because I had it in my notes here, maybe even further saying no feeding of wildlife is allowed in Sandoval, whether it be alligators, ducks, turtles, or whatever, because it's against FWC's rules and regulations, and they actually came in to the resident on Ashbury and investigated that, because again, it is a state regulation that you're not allowed to feed wildlife.
Well, if you don't feed wildlife, you couldn't have a bird feeder, because any bird that's going to eat out of it is wildlife, isn't it?
But there's a caveat in FWC's language that kind of allows bird feeders. But again, I guess as an HOA, we can take it that extra step, which I totally agree with. We need to delineate what your definition of birds that you're feeding with a bird feeder.
Right. Yeah. You just killed my chance to support you in eliminating them by saying, yeah, they're wildlife, so you got to get rid of them.
They bring great joy to people, the bird feeders. All right, so Melanie, and Bill, did you have additional comments?
My only question, everything else has been addressed, but everything says that you can't begin work, obviously, before it's reviewed. And is the SLA what's listed on page 29, that it'll be 10 days or less from when you submit it to when it's approved? Review period?
Does that change?
I know that if it comes in, the ARC meets every Saturday. So depending on when it's presented, it's usually scheduled on the Saturday, no?
Well, right. There's different things that
the first level of
it can be reviewed, and then you may be missing something as part of their review. So then it would be sent back to gather that information and then revisit it.
So do we have, obviously, like once it goes back, then kind of it resets that clock because there was an issue. But if it's submitted and all things are provided for, it'll be approved within 10 days? Is that the expectation from this review period? Like, what is the limit? Because You don't want somebody submitting something and then
Right.
I can't put my pool in because it's taken 2 months to approve a review.
I think the problem is they're meeting every week now,
Yes.
but prior to this year, they met once a month.
Okay, so it would be that time between.
So it would be,
yeah,
but they wouldn't review it until then. Then once they reviewed it, they'd have 10 days, I would think. But that might be a month and a half to do that 10 days.
So is there any way that we can put whatever the timing is from the submitted date?
We can request the ARC to revisit this, yeah.
Well, I tell you what, I would then also add that we need to put something in there that staff in the office will not forward applications to the ARC if those applications are not complete and ready for review, because I think that's the biggest holdup they have now is they get a partially completed one and they have to send it back, and it may take the homeowner 2 months to respond to them. And it's that back and forth trying to get it complete that is the problem. So I would say it should never come to the ARC until it is complete and ready for consideration. And that means staff is going to have to do that.
We've been speaking with the ARC, actually, and I had a staff meeting to work to streamline the process to where it comes. We would encourage it to come to management, let us work to say, no, this is not, we don't actually allow this, so we're not even going to take your money to do that. We're missing this and that. So we're working with the staff and the ARC to streamline that. And I think that it says in here, just reading, that it's 10 days after they've submitted all materials required. And I think for certain that the ARC, if they have everything, I think that's a manageable amount of days. But we are agreed. I think that bits and pieces and kickback, and the ARC is not getting everything they are needing, that management is going to help out in that.
But it's doable as long as the ARC is meeting once a week.
Right.
And that hasn't been the case in the past. I don't want to tell a volunteer group, you have to spend every Saturday morning doing this.
Sure, no.
Because then nobody will volunteer for it.
Right, exactly. But in recent times, I would say the last 2.5 months, they have been meeting weekly, provided there's applications to review.
Right.
So working with Kelsey and with Casey, the ARC knows usually by Wednesday that there's 2 in the pipeline. They're logged in, they've been reviewed, and they're ready to go to the ARC. Sometimes they'll come to the ARC, and the ARC will kick it back to the office to do that first review process, if you will.
But what I'm saying is we don't want to put it in black and white here.
Correct.
That committee is required to meet once every 7 days.
Sure.
Right.
With the COVID and the downtime, there were
Well, even with nothing, in
tons
the
of
future,
applications to
it may
get
not be
ahead.
convenient for them to meet once every 7 days.
Correct. I agree.
I just got 2 more comments.
Ron, yeah?
Perhaps we can request that the committee provide some basic guidelines to the question raised regarding landscaping, possibly if, for example, any plant or tree that's above 3 feet maybe, single plant or tree above 3 feet would require an application, as long as it's not part of a scheme or a change in the overall landscaping, something to add some clarity for what people can and cannot do, so they're not in a position where they don't know, frankly. And I think common sense dictates you're not going to request a DR review for small 1-gallon plants or flowers, just so we can get some clarity on that.
Why not just say trees?
Well,
That
trees could be very small.
What about shrubs?
Any other plant material wouldn't matter.
Well, I think there are some situations in which it's very close whether it's a tree or a plant. Some plants are very big. Some trees can be very small.
If I had a 6-foot hibiscus plant that I wanted to take out, I'd go out and trim it down to 2.5 feet, and then I could take it out.
The point is, I think we need a little more clarity,
Yeah.
and I think it would help the residents. This second comment is directed towards Casey under 42, the trash containers. I just want to make sure the language there is sufficient to provide clarity to what is able to be utilized as a barrier. It says fence, wall, or landscaping, and I'm sure these are defined in other sections of the document, but I want to make sure that it is clear enough to you that you can then go and give an update to the residents exactly what is allowed and not allowed. We still have a number of different types of vinyl fencing and fencing that's just basically stuck in the ground. And I don't know if that is in compliance. I don't think it is, but frankly, I just want to make sure that this document supports what you're doing.
Okay.
So fence and wall go away, and only landscaping is allowed now, right?
Well,
That's
it
what this
says
reads?
trash containers shall be stored in garages or on the side yards behind a front line and shall be screened from the street by a fence, wall, or landscaping.
Fence and wall were omitted, the blue.
That's taken out.
See, I don't have that in blue. I have number 42.
Yeah, fence and wall was omitted.
42. I wasn't sure what you were talking
Where?
about.
I
Under
don't know the
42.
number.
Page 18.
What page is that?
18.
18. Yeah, the fence and the wall were omitted because, I mean, what's a wall?
Right.
And where do we have walls?
See, mine didn't show.
So the landscaping is the preferred, and that was what was raised when Bill said you passed a resolution. Was it, Bill? Or about a year and a half ago,
Yeah.
or almost 2 years ago?
Which we
regarding
gave, basically, we gave guidance to management saying that if you communicate with a resident and they put in a shrub, we can give them 6 months
Right.
to allow the shrub to grow to cover.
Right. But as Melanie said, too, these totes are, 42, 45 inches tall, and they come around, and they, especially in those streets serviced by Down to Earth.
Yeah, phase
they
3
come
is,
and they
yeah.
hack everything.
So just to clarify, only vegetation is an approved barrier now?
Right.
Yes,
Okay.
as suggested here.
Well, I thought we changed
And what
that
are we
before.
doing with all of those that have already fencing? We can't.
Well, that white lattice vinyl fencing is not provided for.
I don't believe that was ever approved.
It was
It was
never
never
approved.
approved, and we have a number of residents that have
So-
that white lattice.
If they put it in, they put it in illegally.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
it's not grandfathered.
because lattice is not considered a fence.
Correct. Fence is under, like, I think 13 or 14.
Is that what the
f-
consensus is, so that you guys would be good with saying that lattice is not a fence, and so then it's not allowed?
It's not approved.
Okay.
And that the fencing has to be, 4 feet high. There's Article 14 talks about fence, and it requires landscaping.
Okay, so only vegetation,
Mm-hmm.
but we would need some more specifications, yes.
Okay.
It requires a
What
contractor,
type,
right?
height?
Fencing.
Sorry?
So, okay, so if we're going to outlaw that white plastic lattice, because there's a lot of it in phase 3, and if they can't have a fence either, correct? The only thing they can have is landscaping?
What they're suggesting here, the ARC, is the landscaping, to have it shielded from the street or
Okay.
screened from the street with landscaping that is equal in height to the trash can.
Okay, but that's the only way that they can obscure the trash container is with landscaping?
Or house it in the garage.
Put it in the garage.
Correct, okay.
On the side, the side of the house, it has to be buffered, if you will, or screened by landscaping, is what is suggested here.
Okay, so the many houses that currently have the white lattice, they will receive a notice, a friendly reminder to take it down and...
Once this is adopted. yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Actually, they should have already received it because we adopted that
Right.
18 months ago. So they should have
Well-
received one 18 months ago to tell them to take it down.
You go out there and it's like every other house.
I think they may have received them and they just ignored it. Or maybe
Right.
our previous general manager didn't follow through with notifying them, which that's possible.
Kathy, one point of clarification, though, when you guys were talking about screening of the trash cans, because it really is a big issue here. When we're talking about screening, because I know in previous times, let's put it this way, we're talking about screening on a frontal view. And then other people were, no, screening from the street, because if I'm driving down the street, I shouldn't be able to see it. So I think that needs to be massaged a little bit more. In my opinion, it should be from the front view looking there. Coming down the street, how are you going to get your trash cans in and out if you're going to put it on the side? So that kind of creates a hardship. I would think the most common sense way would be is if you're looking at the house, that enclosure needs to be screened from the front view, from the street view, straight on the house.
We can suggest that, but the other concern is for those homes that are side entrance homes.
We talked about that.
They don't want to be looking at it.
Right, but how do you get your trash cans out?
So the house would be one side, the front would be a second, and then alongside would be the third side.
It'd have to be L-shaped, and you could take it out and take it.
So if you'd have to juggle your trash cans if you only needed to get the recyclables out or whatever. So okay, and that's
But we can clarify that.
Because I'm just thinking of my house, right? So my house, my
Right.
trash can pad is here, right? If I'm looking at from the street.
Straight on.
So I
That's
have
good.
a royal and I have shrubs here. But then right over here, the builder started doing additional shrubs. So if I screened them from Don coming down his street leaving,
can't
I have
have
shrubs
those.
here and here. I couldn't get my trash cans out.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
the logistics of that really is not going to work for every. And then again, we're going to be making different rules for different houses. So I think
Right.
people are going to have to,
Right.
listen, you live in a community where your house is 10 feet away from each other. You might see something that's offensive, but we're going to try and minimize that and have a standard throughout the community.
There's also a big challenge with some of the models of the houses in Phase 3 that the way the driveways connect to the pad, you actually connect in the front. So the trash barrel gets pulled out in the front, and there's plants along the side of it. So unless you put a potted plant in front of it, there is no ground to plant something in it.
But I think you got a good idea, Scott. Really, all we can delegate is that screen it from the street. We can't really screen it, say you have to screen it from the side as well, because you're not telling other people they have to do that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. All right. So,
I have one question.
yes.
Let's go back to page 4, the air conditioning.
Yes.
Design review is required for installation of all exterior air conditioning. If your air conditioning unit is failed, you're going to call in a company, they're going to come do an in. I don't know of any place that we've had an issue with them replacing the exterior or the one that goes in the house or in the garage. I don't see why you need a design review for air conditioning. I don't think it's being done.
So, again, that was the existing language.
Yeah, I think that
It needs to be revisited.
I would suggest no window air conditioning units shall be allowed, and all air conditioning equipment must be screened by approved landscaping.
Yep.
Those two things.
So your recommendation, eliminate the
Eliminate everything
first
else.
sentence
Eliminate the rest of
and
it.
the red.
And the red. I don't think you need that too.
Okay.
I would agree with that, especially considering how hot it is.
Correct.
We don't want any delays.
Correct.
No, the
Correct.
time review to get the thing
I
replaced.
think they're going to
Me for a
move
month.
forward
We gotta
with
sweat.
ways to get that done.
We'll be in touch.
All right. So at this point, is there a motion with the document to maybe send it back for further review and to monitor the comments that were raised here?
My comment is I think they've done attempted to do a very fine job with this.
Yes.
And I think that, we just brought to their attention some areas that need further refinement, and we'll end up with a good document after a second.
Go around. Okay.
Do we
everybody-
need to do that, or do we just approve this with the mentioned adjustments, or do you want to let them?
I want to approve something that's not ready.
Okay, not trust somebody to make it. Well, really what we're saying is we're telling Casey.
It's a good intention, but I just think that we need to, before you approve something, you need to make sure it's what you want.
Okay.
So we'll send it back to the ARC. Right? Everyone agree? Okay, great. Thank you. And thank you to the ARC committee. I know they spent a lot of time and effort trying to do the right thing to enhance the, again, from a continuity standpoint and in support of enforcement, providing clarity. So thank you to them. All right, so where are we now? The fining and levies, is it? So the Covenants Committee met last week, and I'm going to turn it over to Casey.
Sure. I might have jumbled it in something. Thank you. It's very stapled in. So we had Covenants Committee and the report to the Board of Directors from the meeting on 10/15 was that the following accounts presented and were confirmed for a $100 gate strike fine by the Covenants Committee at a hearing. And so that account was 16858. And again, that was confirmed, a $100 gate strike fine by the Covenants Committee at the hearing. The next is for deed restriction violations. The following list of accounts were presented and confirmed for a $1,000 deed restriction fine in the amount of $1,000 by the Covenants Committee at the hearing. Account numbers 18395, 24956, 20939, 15579, 16678, 16756, 16694, 15635, 17955, 15682, 15720, 16221, 16251, 16858. All accounts did receive adequate notification under Florida statute and were provided a hearing opportunity, and is the recommendation by the Covenants Committee to levy fines for these that are above.
All right. So the motion is to, I'll make the motion, to levy the fines against $100, the one that was a $100 gate strike, and then I think it was a total of 14 for the $1,000 fine. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, Bill seconds.
Is there discussion?
And yeah, and the discussion, yeah.
In light of the information that Bill provided us from the vendor on servicing gate strikes, we're charged $170 to repair the gate when it is struck, and finding them $100. Does that make sense?
I think we brought that up too. Last year it was brought up, and the signs out front say $500, but I believe we were corrected that statute only allows for $100. Am I correct in that?
That's our understanding.
But could there be a charge for the reimbursement of what it costs to get it fixed?
If there's actual damage, I'm sure it could. We're fining them. We're not charging them for the damage.
Shouldn't we charge them to get it refixed? If it's $170 to have the service company come out when they hit the gate?
From what I've seen is that the average, it's a fine not based on damage, because sometimes we can go fix it ourselves, and we do, because we can only fine certain amounts. We have a procedure to fine. So when you average it out of, maybe one time it was free and then the next time it was $170, now you're actually up rather than down. So, I mean, it's, again, if it's something that's a fine that we have to replace it, then we are looking into that, and we'll go after them for, that's a different charge. That's a vandalism charge.
Well, I think they need to be charged for the service call to repair the gate. If you're talking about what it's costing the HOA, we're being charged a non-reimbursable amount here due to the operator error in coming through.
It just, if one time we're choosing to utilize in-house repair, and then the next time that person doesn't get the in-house freebie,
I don't think how it's repaired is the issue. If it's a gate strike, the service call to repair gates, $170. That's what it costs. And whether it's in-house or out-of-house, or I've repaired it, I think in the past I've repaired a lot. I don't repair that many anymore. I don't think that my service of going out there and repairing the gate vindicates the person who did the gate strike. It's $170 to fix it.
I don't disagree. I just know that in creating something that's we're able to stick is something to be thought about, because you have a lot of people that come in and they want backups and they want facts and they want to see your invoice that you're charging them, that they want proof of it. So that's easy when we do have someone come out and they give us a receipt, then it's easy to say, here's the receipt. I don't disagree with you. I think figuring out how we justify a fine based on potentially no backup to that fine is, and maybe it's not a fine, it's a reimbursement. So trying to keep tabs on which ones, were charged for what. I agree with you. I don't disagree, but maybe we can look into documenting who came out and who didn't come out, try to keep up with that, and cross-checking with the invoices is the best I can think of that we could try to do that, and then do the regular standard gate strike fine on top of a reimbursement from the bill that we actually get.
Yeah, I think there's an important distinction between a fine for a violation, which is just to discourage certain behavior, and damages. If in order to establish damages, you have to establish the loss. Therefore, if we were to fix it ourselves, there are no damages. However, if we were to hire a company to come out, there are damages. And I think we should treat that as the same as any other damage someone would do to our property. And I do think the amount we pay to repair should be tied to the person who actually caused the damage. So I would recommend coming up with a way in which we can tie that together.
Cross-check.
So for whenever we have that $170 charge, in addition to the violation, we will be able to recover those damages.
Right.
Yes.
And it would be the violation and the actual cost to make the repair.
And even in more egregious cases, when they really damage the arm really bad, or the motor, or bend something, or the gate.
Yeah,
and I think clarification, though, too, because our friends on social media hold us to the standard of $500 for a damage to the gates or a gate strike. You will be fined. And since that's not true, I would recommend that we get the 1-inch letters or numbers, that say $100, and stick that over there. So we are, again, continuity. If we're fining someone $100 for a gate strike, the sign dictates that would amount, what the amount is going to be. And then secondly, and I know Don's probably fixed dozens and dozens of disjointed drop arms as I have, and probably Al and other people.
Probably the three of us, probably not.
Easily. I get what you're saying about someone getting a pass and the other one's not, but when I do it, I try and send you, hey, had a gate strike Tuesday at 4:30 where you can go back to the tape. So I would say, hey, if any of the board members are going to do it as a practice, to email you with something, either like I try and send you a picture and maybe date stamp it or time stamp it, so you can go back, look at the film and see who it was. If not, then I would say, hey, let's stop doing it and call the vendor. And
just stop doing it. It doesn't seem to me that I think it's a liability and all. I mean, people have talked about that in the past. So I think
Let the vendor do it.
Have them come fix it, and then
charge them.
So the main point for clarity to residents is that it's a fine due to a violation, and in addition, any damages to the property.
Right.
And I mean, the sign saying $500, I mean, we can update it, but does it mean that they may not get something
More than $100.
more than $100? So, you could get up to however much the damage is, and especially if it's an outside person that we send maybe we say if you're outside, you can be charged up to $500 because there's no cap.
Yeah, I think that's
potentially
a little misleading because, frankly, if they were to hit and do some significant damage, it will be beyond $500, and the fine itself is $100. So I do think we want to add some clarity that the fine plus responsibility for additional damages.
Well, the gated veterans, the foam is hanging down 2 feet. That's damage to the gating. And to assign that to one strike, and the bar is all bent. So each time it's hit, there's damage. You can reset the arm, but the arm is bent. There's damage. I mean, both of those gates at veterans, the other one, the foam's not hanging, but it's some of the lights are on and some are not. So that gate has been damaged, and we're using a damaged piece of equipment because of gate strikes that, you were able to put the arm back on and the gate goes up and down. But still, it's not the one damage that actually incapacitates it. Each time it's hit, it gets a little worse and a little worse and a little worse.
Why don't we vote on the motion on the floor and then add that as an additional agenda item for us to discuss?
Good idea.
I have one more thing. I believe it was in July, the Pine Island gate was struck by a resident from Coralina, and it looks like one of the bills that Bill had mentioned earlier today from Bose. We were charged $1,040 to repair it, weld a gate shut. I believe that was probably that gate. Do we know whether we were reimbursed for that amount?
Last I recall from the former general manager was that the individual, she was located in the parking lot.
Yes, she's a Coralina resident. She agreed to pay.
Right.
I'm asking, do we have the money?
I don't believe so.
Or
she
did
had no
that
insurance.
leave when our former GM left?
I don't think any further action was taken other than he got a report, a police report, whatever. But she had no insurance, and I don't think that any money was collected.
That's what that's our problem with.
Right, the follow through.
The property management doing what we need to have done here. We're not following through.
Yeah.
And then one person gets caught and 10 get let off. That's not fair to the ones that get caught.
Right. So maybe tomorrow we can try to find that July 22nd.
Our previous general manager told you that he had negotiated a maintenance contract with Bose to take care of all this for one set cost.
That's exactly what I
And he never followed through with it to do it. He told Don it was done, but he never actually did it.
With Bose.
So that's why we're getting all these 140 and 170 and 1,040.
All right.
Because there was no follow-through.
That's something we can explore with Bose.
We got a motion on the floor. Why don't we call?
Okay, so the motion on the floor is for the $100 gate strike. We'll do that one first.
Okay.
So I made the motion. You seconded it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other discussion? I know we went off on a tangent there. So, all right. Those in favor of the motion in support of fining this resident $100?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All right. The motion passed. All right. And now, again, is there a motion on the next set of fines?
On the 14 items?
Yes. These are the deed restrictions, $1,000 fines, 14 cases. Is there a motion?
I move that we fine the 14
All right.
homeowners listed $1,000 each.
Bill moves. A second?
Second.
Okay, motion seconded by Al. Discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, the motion passes then 7-0, unanimous. Okay. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, good work. Thank you.
I move we adjourn.
All right, next we have the exciting Budget 2021 forecast by our dear friend and treasurer, Bill Tubb.
Okay, I sent all of you a copy of the version 6, I guess, of the preliminary budget.
Version 6?
So you should have that. I guess first I'd like to make a motion. What was it that we have a workshop on? What was the date you suggested?
Next Wednesday, the 28th?
Well, on a computer screen you can read it, but hang on, you're ahead of. No, we're not going to approve it tonight. We're just going to talk about it. I would like to make a motion that we have a follow-up meeting on, what's the date?
A workshop on the 28th.
Workshop on the 28th.
A budget workshop.
To go into this in depth. This is just to gloss over it tonight. And before that time, I would like the general manager to go to Office Depot or somewhere and have that document printed on ledger sheets so that it will be legible by the board members.
Do you want it larger than this?
Well, no, that size is good.
I can make it here.
Okay, I didn't know we had a printer that could actually do that. Let Don look at that and see if that's sufficient for his eyes.
You can have my new cheaters.
I don't know if I want him getting in my mouth with a drill with his eyes. Okay, so would you please provide a hard copy that size to all the board members? Okay.
All right, so the motion is for a budget workshop next Wednesday, the 28th. The time? 4 o'clock?
Whatever you said.
4 o'clock? Does that work?
4 o'clock, that's good for me.
Who made the motion?
Bill made the motion.
Thank you.
All right.
Second.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, Melanie. All right. Thank you.
Discussion. Call the question.
Oh, you're not going to present anything, no?
We've got a motion on the floor. Call the question. We'll vote on it.
Workshop date.
On the workshop.
Right.
Call the question.
All in.
Yeah. So
we need to vote on the workshop.
Okay. All those in favor? Sorry.
Aye.
I thought you were going to present something first. All those in favor, the 4 o'clock Wednesday budget workshop, October 28th. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, very good.
Now,
Thank you.
Preliminary discussion of that so that when you get this hard copy, you'll know kind of where we're coming from and what's been done. The Finance Committee met on October 20th and had several suggestions to version 4 of the document, which are incorporated in version 6, which you'll be receiving, which you did receive and you'll get a hard copy of. Those suggestions were, number 1, set the homeowner assessments at the same $590 per quarter as in 2020 for the master assessments. Number 2, add back some of the other income lines which Jason Ward had deleted, as we know some of that income will be available in 2021. Number 3, fund the bulk telecom fund line over quarter 1 at the same rate as funded in 2020 and then cease to fund that item. Number 4, utilize the funds generated from the assessments that would have gone to bulk telecom fund in quarters 2, 3, and 4 for the operating budget. And number 5, once the 2020 budget is balanced, transfer all additional funds to the contingency line in operations in hopes they will not be spent and will generate a surplus of the operating fund at year end. The purpose of this is to build a fund balance toward the goal of a 3-month operating expense in the fund balance savings account for a rainy day in the future. Casey and I have reviewed this document and approve it as presented as a beginning point for our discussions. You will notice the homeowner quarterly assessments remain at $590 per quarter for the Master Association, and the landscaping assessments for those homeowners with landscaping services provided increased by $4.34 per quarter to $363.59 additional assessment. The bulk telecom fund currently has a balance of $2,042,000 and will have an additional $134,000 added to it by December 31. The preliminary budget will then add an additional $134,000 by March 31, when the contributions to it will sunset with an anticipated balance of $2,311,000. Revenue from sources other than homeowner assessments totaling $60,000 have been included in this proposed budget. Jason Warren at Pope Properties wanted to reduce the anticipated sales in 2020 to 86 units for the $3,000 per unit capital contribution. We are currently at a rate to collect for 118 sales this year, or $9.80 or 9.8 sales per month now. And as of September 30, we have collected $267,000 or 89 resales. This equals the track of 9.8 sales per month for the first 3 quarters of 2020. I saw no reason to reduce our expectations for 2021, but compromised in this budget at 100 sales for $300,000 in 2021. The reserve study we had performed in 2019 called for a balance in our reserve fund at December 31, 2020 to be $2,143,000, and for us to contribute $361,000 in 2021. As our current balance in the reserve fund is $2,452,000, and we can expect to contribute an additional $88,000 to it in the fourth quarter of 2020, the balance at 12/31 should be $2.5 million, an amount the reserve study does not anticipate until the end of 2022. Hopefully we will continue with 116 to 120 sales per year in 2020, but even at 100 sales, the additional $300,000 would increase our year-end budget, less any expenditures in 2021, to $2.7 million, an amount that's not expected until 2023 by the study. Should we fail to meet the budgeted amount in 2021, the board in its deliberations for the 2022 budget should visit this issue. I'll now yield the floor to Casey to go over expenditure levels she feels are necessary for our association in 2021.
Thank you, Bill. The expenditures, I'm going to touch on the large amount of increases and then work my way down. So healthcare is proposed for a $17,000 increase. This is straight from payroll company at Pope.
Is it possible that we get a big copy? It's hard to follow what you're saying without being able to see it.
I have a version that's, these are 2 different versions, so I didn't want to mess up. Let me just, I can just, do you want to wait a minute?
Well,
or
actually,
I can make copies.
If you don't need her to go through the individual expenditures at this time because we're going to have a workshop, we could just pass on that and you'll get that larger copy before we really discuss them. Okay.
Okay,
And
so we'll
I
have
support
copies,
that.
and I can help you tomorrow get them delivered to the board.
It will take no problem at all. Yeah.
So you'll have hard copies on the larger documents, papers tomorrow.
But anyway, the bottom line is this budget as presented to you will be balanced. We'll come out year-end zero, but with that, we've got a contingency of around $60,000 that hopefully we don't spend, and that would add to the fund balance.
I just want to put something, a thought in everyone's mind. If we have no fund source for projects, then we will then change our community to have a large project that we need to do with a special assessment. And we've never done that here in Sandoval. And I just want you all to be thinking about that. Do you want to incorporate a capital fund where you have some that's in reserve for a capital project that's above and beyond the operations budget? Think about that. I just want to plant that seed. I'm not saying, how we need to do it, but I think we need to be thinking about that because I think the special assessments, which many HOAs, whenever they have a big project, they have a special assessment. And are we going to start going that route, or do we want to have a capital fund where we will have something that we could have available to do something like that?
Mm-hmm. And Bill, your numbers in here are all predicated on 2021 of 100 sales.
That's correct. For
anything
reserves.
below that 100 will be a shortfall in our budget, and we will have to.
No, because reserves.
Oh, that's funding reserves.
The reserve in that budget, you see the income, but you also see an expense where we transfer it out of operating into reserves. So it's a net zero on the bottom line.
Okay, gotcha. Right.
All right. A question I have is, so we are set for the budget workshop Wednesday the 28th. When do you anticipate the vote? And should we talk about setting a date for that now? For the budget meeting?
Well, if everybody's comfortable with it on the 28th, we could vote on the 28th.
Okay.
Maybe on the 28th, if people want to have a second meeting, we can do that and have that for the vote.
No. We have to notice it, right?
Yeah, it's going to take a few days to get the mail out ready. Everyone has to be mailed out
14 days.
14 days prior to the budget meeting with the proposed budget and notification. So with
For the vote on the budget.
so
Okay.
if you have your meeting, the workshop on the 28th,
Okay.
Yes.
allotting a few days for preparation and mail out, crunch time, and then 14 days after that, you're into 16, 17 days. It's falling around November the 17th, 18th, and 20th.
So Tuesday is 11/17.
How about Thursday, the 19th?
Thursday, 11/19.
Why did I not have the 19th? That's odd. Let me just double check that. I must have looked at the 17th, 18th, 19th, or 20th.
So Bill's suggesting the 19th. You want to make a motion?
Does anybody have a problem with Thursday, November 19th, to have the budget
annual-
meeting where we will vote on the budget? We're going to have a workshop before that, but that would be either to more discussion on it and vote.
A 14-day notice is required, and to get the
Copies,
proposed
postage,
budget
envelopes, and all of
out
that.
to everybody.
Does anybody have a conflict with that date?
Thursday,
Thursday.
November 19th.
At 4 o'clock, the same time, or do we know what time?
We can do 4 for working people.
Okay, then I move that we have a budget workshop, a budget special call meeting for a vote on the budget on
Okay.
Thursday,
Annual budget
November
meeting.
19th at 4 p.m.
Okay. Is there a second annual budget meeting Thursday, November 19th at 4 p.m.? Second? Al Over. Thank you. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. 7. Very good. The motion's passed. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Casey. I know you've put a lot of time into it. All right. Next, solicitation for additional agenda items. Does anyone move to add to the agenda?
Yes. Oh, go ahead. No, you go.
You go first.
You go.
I do. I just want to return a little bit for the RFP discussion, if possible.
Sure.
Is everybody okay with that? So it's very challenging to kind of do double talk and not mention company names and some of this stuff. And it's the only time where we can actually have an open conversation with this group to be able to kind of determine where the committee needs to go from here. The committee really has done what they've been asked to do. They narrowed this down. They came back with what recommendations they have. There's nowhere in our charter that it says that the committee had to agree at 100%. But we would like to be able to at least identify 2 potentials that we want to continue to move forward with, to really be able to continue this process going forward. I mean, I think the committee basically today, I asked everybody what their opinion was. I don't think it's going to change tomorrow. It is what it is. Mm-hmm.
You told me that the Town Square app is not proprietary to a...
Right, yeah.
Why couldn't we use that app with something else, with another company?
You potentially could, but you need to pay for it.
Well,
So
they
I
could
have
work
no
that
idea
into
what the costs,
to a contract.
what the costs are for that. And I think the app is really great. It's extremely robust. There's a lot to it. We don't have any app at this point, so I think we need to determine what the company is, and then determine what level of access we would need on an app, and what are we giving up if we're not getting a certain app. Like it's kind of is. I don't want to go with one
to
company.
increase the options.
What was that?
I'm only mentioning, can we get the app that we see as the top-notch app, find out how that might work, depending on the
And
options.
that's a discussion we could go
I
back.
think you would have a problem with that because doesn't the app
ties into
integrate with
their-
your accounting program so that you can look at your account,
Yes,
you can
the
pay your
dashboard.
bill,
It does.
and you couldn't just go to any company and say, here, you have to integrate this in with your accounting package.
No, we would have to work with a specific company to say,
Would it be
can you
integrated?
integrate this app in?
Yeah.
And my expectation is that it would be quite costly to have them do that level of customization for us. It's certainly a question we could ask.
Right.
Has there been a thorough evaluation of all three apps?
Not consistently across all three. One app definitely caught everybody. Like, this is amazing. This is, really changing. And then based off that, I went back and asked for screenshots and some additional questions for one of them. We haven't gone back to the third company to ask for that same level of explanation around what their app is. Specifically, this one I went back to because everything else looked really good, and I wanted to see if the app was equivalent to the other one. That was the only kind of deciding factor, was that app. So I guess the reason I'm bringing this back up is I don't know what exactly we need to go back and have our committee do. I feel like they've done a phenomenal job. They've done tremendous amounts of research and analysis on this. Between you two, both Kathy and Scott, both being on the committee, do either one of you feel comfortable going back and asking the committee to do additional work on this?
I would suggest that we facilitate a request for a demonstration, and we can question them. We can ask for their thoughts, comparison to theirs against the one that we like, and would they be in a position to possibly, use the other one, and how would that be integrated? What would be the costs incurred? A lot of them threw in both the app and the website at no cost.
Right.
So, obviously if they deviate from what their system is, it might be problematic, but they might be able to show us that it's, we offer the same. Maybe it's not as notarized, it's proprietary in one instance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've lost you again. The town square is provided by one vendor, correct?
Right.
And that is the leading vendor?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
But it's the leading app.
It's the leading app. And that's the part I'm trying to get to. We're asking people to come back again and do another presentation on what? Are we saying, just tell us your app?
I'm asking, who are the people you're asking to come back?
So based off what it would be, at this point it would be Castle, First Service, and Associa.
So
those
three.
are the
Right.
three.
Okay.
So we want to drill down on their technology solutions, their integration process, and again, we want to see what the capabilities are. They said they can do it, so again, do a demonstration for us. We talked about the emergency notifications, sort of like an Amber Alert email, Veterans Gate out of commission, avoid Veterans Gate for the time being, whatever. This type of push of information.
Okay.
So
you're going to invite three vendors back to do a presentation.
I think we'd set it up as a call, a Zoom call.
For presentation on technology, and then you, the committee, are going to weed it down to two options to come back to the board to vote on which one we prefer.
We can try.
We
I
can.
mean, it's these are the three companies. It's the same three companies that everybody's
I'm just trying to see.
That's what I'm concerned with.
I think
we're going
what
to
you
come
wanna
back.
do.
That's what I'm concerned with. Is that we're going to schedule all of these things, and you're going to come back to the committee and say, okay, what three? Who do you like? I still like this one. I still like that one, and I still like that one. It's not the committee did the research. I feel like it's at the point where we need to pass over the committee work to the board.
I'll second that motion. I think we've had the baby long enough. He's going to college, and now it's time to turn the child over to the board.
Well, then,
we could take these three top people and take this for 3 more years and say, oh, by the way, let me see the credentials of your CPA and what college did he go to and what fraternity. We could drill down till we hit China. We're at a point right now we've put hundreds, if not thousands of hours into this process, and I think it's now ready to go to the board. And if the board wants to take that recommendation and say, listen, now we're getting into the contract negotiation phase, now as a board, I want to see how that app is integrated. I can guarantee you the 3 top companies that we've looked at after all of these hours, their app works for them the best. And these 3 top companies in this area, if not state or countrywide have an app that is better than the app we have right now. So I don't think by drilling down and asking any more questions and having Zoom meetings is going to change the outcome, that these three are still going to be your top three with two different apps that are well suited for Sandoval and Sandoval's needs. And I think that's a decision that the board should make, because there seems to be some valid questions as to that. And to leave the board out of that decision, I think they're in a position right now where the board could whittle that down 3 to 2 to 1 or whatever after they do negotiations or whatever. So I'm in favor of just the board will just dissolve and or the committee will dissolve and the board will make their decision based on what we've presented.
I just want to be careful.
But
go ahead.
we can't ask them to come and have a Zoom meeting or a presentation to us about the technology without a special call meeting. That's what the committee can do, because you don't have a quorum and you can do that at any time. We have to have a special call meeting to do that.
Right, but again, I've looked at the Hometown app, right? And I've done so what am I looking at again? Why am I looking at their presentation again, knowing that this app is better than what we have now, and the other company has an app, and I know that that app is better than what we have now. So what is that dog and pony show going to do for me in changing my 1 and 2 pick?
Well, if we're not going to get any more information, why don't we vote tonight?
Well, and I guess the other piece too, though, is I want to be careful that we're not picking a management company based off one
right.
Correct.
aspect.
Absolutely.
And I love technology. I am all in. I want efficiency and streamlined process and great solid technology that will improve, how we do things. But we had a massive list of over 128 questions. Do you have an app? Was one line item on that. It's one consideration factor. And I feel like that's why we need to look broader than just about what's the app they offer. Take the app away. Would you still feel that this is the right company?
Well, maybe one app has more bells and whistles and it's prettier, but do all three of them have a functioning app that would take care of our issue?
What do we need? Do we need all those bells and whistles? They'd be great to have.
If they all three have an adequate app, then that's not an issue anymore.
Well, I mean, one thing that one app has is reservations, things that we talked about for
social
lifestyle, ways to pay online for things that you're going to go to. I mean, there's more than just the strict financials. I mean,
Right.
I mean, this is something that we had discussed. Was there a way to do that?
Mm-hmm.
And was there a way to do that with Constant Contact or the other company that we've got with the website? Because those are things that, once we get another big clubhouse, the more streamlined we become,
Right.
the less employees' time is required
Right.
to do the work. And that's what you're talking about here with technology.
Exactly.
So,
Right.
So,
Greater efficiency.
Just think about
Convenience.
What is the future for that, and how can it be utilized with other areas like our lifestyle program?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, and I mean, of course, I think the app is great, and I just don't want that to be a decision factor within it. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm saying. That was one line item in it that 2 years ago nobody said we have to have an app. Like this is ground changing.
But again, if the app, notwithstanding, and again, I just had a home. What was the name of the app?
Town Square.
Town Square. Notwithstanding Town Square, the other apps that are within the other companies, if they weren't a functioning app to all the other clients, they wouldn't have it.
Wouldn't be using
so it's a
them.
functioning app.
Reviews were like 13 reviews and 2.8 stars.
Correct.
And so there was hardly any review.
Right.
So we don't
Right.
know what the people thought about it.
Right. Well, they did
and
anything
that's
much
where-
about it to not even
The
review
Castle app was established in 2019, Drawbridge.
Right.
Right.
So it's new.
It's new.
It only rolled out in 2019, in fairness. They developed it, and it's only been around since 2019. And then the For Services app is proprietary. And again,
That's it.
integrated with their systems. We're locked into their system. So Town Square would not be feasible or a plug and play, if you will.
But it didn't have many reviews either. I mean,
Right.
both of those others that
Right.
were 26 and 13 reviews.
They were low.
6 stars.
Bottom line though is, and I think it's what Melanie's saying, I think we've got 3 good choices, and if we choose one that doesn't have an app that you can make a reservation for dinner one night, I don't think that's enough to say we need to go with that app.
Well, that company
because of that.
You're picking the comment.
No, I'm just saying.
I'm just showing you how you can expand on the functionality
Right.
of the app.
I agree with that, but where I'm coming from is Scott says all 3 companies have apps that are adequate for our needs. So I'm willing to put the app out of my...
Okay, so another comment that was made by one of the companies that we guarantee that you can have the financials on the first week, the second week, or whenever you want them. I mean, to me, you have hassle to get the financials 2 days before the board meeting when we moved the board meeting another week so that they would be
Have
there
them
so
time.
A week ahead of time.
for the finance committee, and then we had it for the board meeting, and that still never happened.
Yeah.
So, to me, if you're telling me one of the selling features is we can get these financials first week, second week, by the 15th or
The
whatever,
15th,
to me, that's,
right.
that's
That's
big.
important.
But again, that criteria that you mentioned, which is definitely a pertinent one, was part of the 128
Right.
That
questions
was in the list,
that was
so-
on the list. So those people who said, yeah, we can get you, because that was paramount to us. We wanted financials
Right.
in a timely fashion.
128 questions,
Right.
I listened to
Right.
what they said when they came to make their presentation.
Right. No, but your
Right.
question is valid, but that was vetted through all 14 applicants, who all 14
They wouldn't have
answered
made it this far
128
if that
questions. They
wasn't
wouldn't have
one of
made
their
it this far.
answers.
Right.
And then the other thing is that the protocol for the deed restriction. I mean, to me, if I'm looking for 3 things here, I'm looking for the financials, how done well and
On time.
presented to us on time. I'm looking for some type of app that really gets us involved in the community, and so everybody has text notifications, all these kind of things, emergencies, that kind of stuff. To me, I'm looking for that, and I'm looking for something that does the deed restriction in an efficient manner so that it won't take 15 employees to do it, because we try to do it with one and we fall on flat on our face.
And 6 years to get the first
And
fine.
6 years, and we're still no better off than we were 6 years ago. Well, we
Again,
are a little bit.
We're a little bit better the last 2 months.
Those 3 questions that you have were part of that 128 questions. So just be known that the
Yes.
3 top people
Right.
have made it and answered those questions in the exact way that every board member would want to have heard those, or else they wouldn't have made it this far.
Yeah.
And those who didn't make it failed in at least those 3 areas or some others.
Yeah.
When's our workshop?
Wednesday, the
Wednesday.
28th.
Wednesday when?
The 28th.
Of what month?
September.
Next week.
October.
October.
28th.
Okay. Well, I don't want to.
He's all excited about Halloween.
So
He's wearing his mask.
Can we, as part of that Wednesday, October
We can.
28th meeting, set part of the agenda that we will vote at that time, and that gives us?
It's a workshop. Can
It's a
we?
workshop versus a board meeting.
I don't.
Can we vote? That's what I'm asking. Can we vote at that workshop?
We're going to notice it on Monday, the workshop.
You
And
can have, yeah, you would change it from a workshop to a board meeting.
yeah, we can.
I'm just
We
thinking
can. We
that
can
Just
notice
be a
it on
special
Monday and then solicit agenda
that
items.
gives
There'll be
everybody
2
another week-
agendas.
A
The
week to
board-
think
the-
about it, and then we come prepared to vote.
I believe we can.
That's right.
Well, then let's vote tonight.
I'm not ready to vote for tonight. I'm not. Only
Okay.
because I think I'm more knowledgeable on the one app, as you said, than another ones. That I need to just get a little more informed.
And there was some changes in information that I think I received today.
Yeah,
Oh,
on the
yeah,
costs.
just
on the
some
costs,
significant-
Just before we
which
came here.
sort of switched somebody's thoughts too. And I don't know if
Yeah,
everybody
no, it's worth
saw
it to
that.
review that.
In that regards, the burden rate and the extra wellness credit. So Wednesday, the 28th, the workshop now, we'll notice it on Monday as a meeting with the 2 agenda items, RFP and the budget. No?
I just
We can't do it?
If it's I'd have to double check, but if it's a budget meeting, I'm not sure. I think you have to do the 14-day. If you're doing
No.
a
This
workshop.
isn't voting on the budget. This is
Right,
voting
but
on
if
the
you-
management.
If you, instead of you could do a budget workshop, but if you want to do a budget meeting and where the budget, even though you're not voting on
Can
the
we just
budget,
do
you
the same
typically have
time?
to do a 14-day. So you could do,
Okay.
what you can do is,
Oh.
you can do this, you can do a budget workshop, and then we'll do a regular meeting
Following.
after, following.
Yeah, so we'll notice
Yeah.
two sessions. Okay, that'll work, right?
That works.
You're a problem solver.
Yes, good job.
So what time is that?
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock. Okay.
All right, so that concludes your.
I'm good.
All
Sorry
right,
for the rant.
who else would like to, additional, Scott, and then, are you the same?
No, he's younger.
All right, Don, go ahead, please.
I
Additional
wanted
agenda
to-
items.
I wanted to bring up the elections, and I know that last year, the elections were run by the Communications Committee. I spoke with Ron when he came in, how he thought that worked, and he thought it worked quite well. And, you know, if it's not broken, don't fix it. You know, there's project managers and groups on that. They were really organized with that, and I think it was a diverse group of the community. I'd recommend we ask them if they're willing to accept the same task this year.
Okay.
Just if I can clarify, we had a voting committee and a subcommittee. The voting committee basically oversaw the electronic voting and delegated to the subcommittee certain questions on the organization of the election. And we took a lot of time to ensure that subcommittee had the components from all different facets of the community to make sure there wasn't any bias, because there were some issues that came up that we felt that we could discuss amongst ourselves and come to a fair resolution. The dichotomy of it was not by accident, but obviously we need to make sure that that committee is still willing to act in that capacity. But if it does,
Right.
and they're willing to, I was personally very comfortable with it, and I thought they worked well together.
Okay. I spoke to Don and Melanie when we first came in, saying about, you know, the election and standing up an ad hoc committee. So, all right, so we'll reach out to the communications and get the listing of who all and see their availability and interest, right? And then from a board, we'd need, two liaisons? That's what you had last year, was it? 2 liaisons? Was it just 1 liaison? Okay. You want to do it again? Are you running? You don't have to tell me right now. All right, so that's good. Let me twist your arm. Somebody grab him. All right, so that's.
We have 2 liaisons to the Communications Committee.
Right, you and Melanie, yeah? Yes. Yeah. All right. And neither are running. So yeah, we can leave it at that. That's a good thought. All right, and then so we're good with that. Scott, yes?
Yes, please. Last month, I believe I brought up CenturyLink again, and I'd just like to go over some
Yes.
more developments, if you will. I had a DVR box go bad, and of course, they have to come and install that. And I was speaking with the technician on the phone as well as the technician that came to the house. And before we get into that, I said when I was running for the board that relying on the telecommunications fund as a sustainable source of income is not sustainable. And their conversation with me was, don't expect us to be around much longer. They're not negotiating any more of their contracts. As I said before, their content is dropping because they're not negotiating their contracts. So we're seeing what we're paying for, we're not getting that in the channel lineup that we were guaranteed when that contract was negotiated. So I called up CenturyLink today and complained that for my preferred package that I upgrade to $45 a month, I'm getting over 60% less channels. And I ratcheted all the way up to about the 3rd level of management, and CenturyLink's comment back from upper management was, we'll give you a $25 one-time credit, and then after that you're going to continue to pay more for less. And I find that, number one, as a resident, and number two, as a board member, unconscionable on their part. So just so happens today that through the priority mail I received.
I got one too.
I think it's because of board members from Hotwire. And I think it's imperative that this board convenes an ad hoc committee to immediately look into that, because in my heart of hearts, I don't think our 10-year contract is going to last that long, and that source of income that we've so lovingly relied on is going to disappear unless we negotiate something, or at least give our residents back something, whether they give us the 100 megabit internet speed for the same price as a 4020. But I think for what we're getting right now, they probably are in breach of contract.
One word, YouTube
tried.
TV.
What's that?
YouTube TV.
Well, even the technician said, listen, you got what? He said you could get rid of CenturyLink right now, and all your residents would save money by streaming, but we would lose that source of revenue that we're so accustomed to.
But I think it'll also involve changing our docks.
Documents.
Our
That's right.
docks, because the cable's provided.
Right, and the
Not
DVD
if
was
the HOA
$5.
paid for YouTube TV or
Correct.
If we
Hotwire or something like that.
Right, but we negotiated the DVD in the.
vendor. An alternative.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right, just the DVR box.
All right.
Yeah.
So the motion that Scott made is to establish an ad hoc group, correct?
I'll
An ad
second
hoc
it.
committee. All right, Bill seconds. Discussion?
I think a component of this needs to be evaluation of the obligation in our documents.
Right. Obligation of the documents, right. And then the level of service, the channels, what was specified, right? And then where it matches up today. And then to explore options would be the scope of the mandate or the charter?
And I even think in exploring options, because we really only have, 3 years left in that, or 3 or 4, maybe. I think 3. Well, 2021, 2024, it's up.
24,
so,
yeah.
We really need to start looking at options now, even though probably technology is going to change in that time frame. But I guarantee you, when this contract is up, a cable is not going to be correct.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That would be within
That'll
the
be
scope
part of the charter.
Options.
Yep.
As an option. All right, anything else? Al, anything? So, okay, so...
Call a question.
Question.
We got a motion on the table. We got to vote on it.
Right, but I thought he was raising his hand. All right, so all those in favor of Scott's motion, seconded by Bill, to establish an ad hoc committee to look at the contract as...
I think you need to establish an ad hoc committee to evaluate this particular portion of our obligation to the community.
Video.
Not century. Don't take
Yeah.
the word century.
Video. Our obligation to provide video to the community.
Video and internet service to the community. That I think is what we need to evaluate. And develop options. And develop options going forward.
Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Everybody, so 7, unanimous. Great, thank you. All right. Any other additional agenda items? All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Oh,
Oh.
You're going to go to the open. Okay. So we have the open floor.
Motion to
So
adjourn? All right,
I did
Melanie?
it some time ago.
Melanie and Bill. And then we'll go to the open forum. We had 2 comments that Casey will present.
Okay.
Jerry Kern.
We have 2 here that came in. The first one, Jerry Kern, in regards to security and towing. I've recently received emails from Global Security, as well as Dead or Alive Towing, owner Christine, related to our current security. Pertaining to security and towing. I understand with COVID, the security hours were adjusted to patrol amenities, but this has created a lapse in our ability to tow illegal vehicles. This has also created several conflicts. Somerville is crippled to resolve. I've informed I've been informed while Dead or Alive is under contract, their services are suspended. If we're going to have security company to enforce deed restrictions, we need to also enforce illegal parking within Somerville, as well as throughout Sandoval. Our guidelines state this cannot occur prior to 1 a.m., so there's some questioning on the times. What's the plan for towing, rule enforcement of parking and security? And since my start at Sandoval, towing as well as security has been priority for the board and myself. So we've moved on to set up towing company interviews. Those will actually be held next week on 3 different mornings. As far as suspension for towing, I'm not aware of any towing suspension. The intent is to get a security company as well as a towing company that complements the efforts that are currently in place. The next one is from Patricia Policiano, and 2 items here. I'm requesting the board address why there is such minimal mowing and trimming done on foreclosed properties that have been in foreclosure shortly after they were built. And then I would also like to address the liability issue regarding pavement repairs that have existed for over 2 years. Ron did speak on the current update for the paving projects. She also mentions that roofs are disgusting and the pavers have weeds growing in them at these homes, and they're filthy. And our response is that the association has maintained foreclosure homes to not create a further burden on the association. Management has an amount allotted for the budget for these homes, and we're following through with taking care of them along those lines that are in the budget. And again, the paving repairs, Ron mentioned those that we have, we're narrowing down to the 2 estimates, and we'll be proceeding forward with those. Okay.
But Crawford is committed, and they are doing the every 2 weeks, the mow and blow.
Right. Right. This was in regards to nothing being taken care of for beyond that. Bushes, trees, things like that is the concern there.
Okay. Anybody want to add to the foreclosure or the paving concern? All right. Very good. That concludes
That's all I
our
have.
meeting for the night. Thank you so much.
Thank you.